someone say in court that made you burst out laughing? When my daughter was 16, she got rear-ended by a drunk driver while stopped at a red light. The guy was clearly wasted, failed 3 sobriety tests, but somehow his expensive lawyer was trying to blame my daughter for the accident. The crash left her with a concussion and whiplash. She missed 2 weeks of school and had to quit her job at the local coffee shop because she couldn't handle the physical demands anymore. But this lawyer was determined to prove she was somehow at fault. During the deposition, he kept asking the same questions over and over, trying to confuse her or get her to contradict herself. My daughter has always been sharp, but head injuries can affect your memory, so I was worried about how she'd handle his aggressive tactics. The lawyer starts with this condescending tone. Now, Miss Johnson, you claim you were completely stopped at the intersection, correct? Yes, sir. The light was red. But how can you be absolutely certain you were stopped? Isn't it possible you were still slowing down? Because my car has something called brakes, and I used them. The stenographer smiled, but the lawyer wasn't amused. He kept pushing. You were on your phone at the time of the accident, weren't you? No, I wasn't. Come now, you're a teenager. All teenagers are on their phones constantly. Surely you were texting someone. I wasn't on my phone. I find that very hard to believe. What teenager isn't on their phone while driving? That's when my daughter looked him dead in the eye and said, the kind whose parents actually taught her how to drive responsibly. Maybe if more adults acted like adults instead of getting drunk and driving into teenagers, we wouldn't need to have these conversations. The room went completely silent. The lawyer's face turned red, but he kept going. Let's talk about your alleged injuries. Concussions are very convenient because they're impossible to prove, aren't they? Actually, they showed up on my CT scan, but I'm not a doctor. Are you? I'm asking the questions here, young lady. Right, but you just asked me if concussions are impossible to prove, and I'm telling you mine was proven by medical imaging. So either you don't understand how CT scans work, or you're asking questions you already know the answers to just to waste everyone's time. Our lawyer was trying not to smile. The other guy was getting flustered. Miss Johnson, isn't it true that you've been milking these so-called injuries for attention and to get out of school? Yes, because nothing says fun teenage experience like massive headaches, memory problems, and having to quit the job I loved. I definitely gave myself a concussion just to miss my AP chemistry test. The sarcasm was thick, and even the court reporter was stifling a laugh. But the lawyer wasn't done. He pulled out a photo on his phone and showed it to her. This is a picture from your Instagram account posted 3 days after the accident. You're smiling. If you were really injured, would you be posting happy photos? My daughter looked at the photo, then back at him with this completely deadpan expression. The courtroom settled into a brief, tense silence. The opposing lawyer held up his phone, the smiling photo of my daughter displayed on the screen like his final conclusive piece of ammunition. A look of smug, gotcha satisfaction returned to his face. My daughter looked at the photo, then back at him, her expression unreadable, showing only a kind of placid calm that bordered on pity. That was, she began, her voice clear and steady, cutting through the quiet taken at my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary dinner. The lawyer's eyebrows shot up, not seeming to grasp the connection. She continued in that same matter-of-fact tone. My grandparents were married for 50 years. That evening, they held each other and danced their first dance in front of all their family and friends. My mom had done my hair and helped me into that pretty dress because my neck still hurt too much to manage it myself. I sat there, watching them, seeing the love on their faces that had lasted through everything, and I smiled, because even when things are really bad, there are still beautiful things in the world worth capturing with a smile. Is that? She paused, her gaze sweeping the room before landing squarely on the flushed lawyer. What you call milking for attention? Or in your world, does a 16-year-old girl who has had a bad break forfeit the right to smile for her family's happy moment? She gave a slight, almost imperceptible shake of her head. The caption on that photo was, "Hope I can be this strong in 50 years. That is the whole truth behind your so-called happy picture. Sir, if you'd actually looked through my social media, which I am sure you scoured for this, you'd see I didn't post anything else for the next 3 weeks because the headaches and dizziness were too bad to look at a screen, but clearly you only saw what you wanted to see." In that moment, I felt something burst in my chest. Not anger, but a surge of overwhelming pride. Our lawyer finally stopped trying to hide it, leaning back in his chair with a distinct victorious smirk. Even the judge frowned slightly, casting a look of clear disapproval toward the other lawyer. The court reporter, who had been so professional, let out an audible choked cough this time and quickly looked down. The opposing lawyer was completely thrown off his game, his carefully constructed narrative, painting my daughter as an exaggerating teen leveraging her injuries to get out of responsibilities, was crumbling to dust under her calm, piercing truth. The phone in his hand seemed to burn him, and he snatched it back. No further questions, he practically mumbled, all the previous bluster gone from his voice. What followed happened with surprising speed. Their defense had collapsed. In his closing arguments, our lawyer emphasized my daughter's remarkable poise, clear logic, and unimpeachable honesty during the cross-examination, contrasting it sharply with the other side's aggressive tactics based on stereotypes and malicious assumptions. The judge ruled in our favor. The drunk driver and his insurance company were found 100% liable, responsible for all medical bills, lost wages, and other related damages. It wasn't just financial compensation, it was a complete moral victory. Walking out of the courthouse doors, the sunlight felt unusually bright and sharp. I wrapped my arm around my daughter's shoulders, feeling her lean into me slightly, the strength she'd summoned in the room beginning to ebb, revealing a trace of age, appropriate weariness. "Did you hear that, Mom?" she said softly, a genuine, unburdened smile finally gracing her face. The way the room went so quiet you could hear a pin drop, especially when I asked him if he thought I gave myself a concussion to get out of a chem test. I laughed, pulling her closer. "I heard, honey, everyone heard. You didn't just win your case, you." I searched for the words. "You schooled the man who tried to game the system. You know," she mused, "what I really wanted him to understand was that a girl, even when she is hurt, even when she is only 16, deserves to be listened to. Her pain shouldn't be so easily questioned and mocked." Months later, the settlement came through. It covered all the medical bills and made up for her lost income. With part of what was left, we took a trip together to New York, a place she'd always wanted to see. We stood atop the Empire State Building, watching the city lights sprawl out like a river of stars below. The night breeze played with her hair as she looked out, her profile against the lights looking both mature and resolute. "You know, Mom," she said suddenly, "that whole lawsuit, as awful as as it was, taught me something. It taught me to never be afraid to speak your truth just because you are scared or the other side seems powerful, even if the other side is a lawyer with an expensive suit. I looked at her, my daughter, who in that hostile courtroom used her wit, courage, and unassailable truth to silence a grown man trying to twist reality. She hadn't just won a legal case, she had weathered a storm and emerged stronger on the other side. Now she is in college majoring in pre-law. She says she wants to be the kind of lawyer who actually helps victims, not one who plays word games to get guilty parties off the hook. Sometimes when we talk about that time, she'll still imitate the lawyer, all flustered and sputtering, and will laugh until our sides hurt. That photo from her grandparents' anniversary, the one used as evidence against her, is now printed out, framed, and sits on her desk. In it she is in her pretty dress smiling, but her eyes hold a faint, hard-won trace of the pain she was pushing through. It is more than a smile, it is a statement, a declaration that even in brokenness you can find and hold on to beauty, that truth and dignity can and will triumph over falsehood and arrogance. And that moment in court, that brilliant, powerful burst of wit and truth will forever be in my memory, the brightest footnote of her growing up.